Imagine a moment when the United States teetered on the edge of collapse, not during the Civil War, but nearly 30 years earlier. A single state, South Carolina, declared a federal law null and void and dared the president to stop them. This is the story of the Nullification Crisis of 1832, the first true constitutional showdown over federal power, and the event that almost tore the young nation in half. The seeds of conflict were planted with a tariff. In the early 1800s, the U.S. government placed high tariffs, taxes on imported goods to protect northern industries. But in the South, where the economy depended on agriculture and trade, these tariffs were seen as punishing and unfair. By 1828, the so-called Tariff of Abominations had Southern leaders outraged. It raised duties to historically high levels, some as high as 50%, and South Carolina's economy suffered. At the center of the opposition was John C. Calhoun, vice president under Andrew Jackson. Calhoun secretly penned the South Carolina Exposition and Protest, arguing that states had the right to nullify or invalidate federal laws they deemed unconstitutional. In 1832, Congress passed a new tariff, but it didn't go far enough for South Carolina. That November, the state called a special convention. The result? The Ordinance of Nullification, a bold declaration that the federal tariff laws were null, void, and not binding in South Carolina. They went a step further. If the federal government tried to enforce the law, South Carolina would secede, leave the Union. President Andrew Jackson, a fierce Unionist despite being a Southern slaveholder, responded with fury. He issued a proclamation declaring nullification treason and sent U.S. Navy warships to Charleston Harbor. Congress passed the Force Bill, giving Jackson power to use the military to enforce federal law. It was the closest the country had come to civil war, until the Civil War. Enter Henry Clay, known as the Great Compromiser. Clay proposed a new tariff that would gradually reduce duties over 10 years. Calhoun, now openly leading the nullification movement, accepted the compromise. South Carolina repealed its nullification ordinance, but in a final jab, they nullified the Force Bill, symbolically asserting their state sovereignty. The immediate crisis ended, but the precedent had been set. The idea that states could defy federal law would linger, haunting the country and laying groundwork for secession in 1860. The Nullification Crisis showed just how fragile the Union was and how quickly disagreements over economics and constitutional authority could spiral toward disaster. It was a warning, one the nation failed to fully heed, and it left behind a central question still debated today. How much power should the federal government really have? Thanks for watching The Lost Ledger. Subscribe for more deep dives into the forgotten turning points of American history. Until next time, keep questioning the past, because it still shapes our present.